Okay. Well, the stated goal of our Being Human Church, which is posted on the website, beinghumanchurch.com, the stated goal is that humanity survives the threats of today and thrives in the infinite future. So, what should we humans do to accomplish that? Well, of course, I'm a science fiction fan, and sci-fi is now mainstream. So lots of people are familiar with Star Trek and Star Wars and Marvel comics, and all of that leaves the impression in our collective consciousness that there are lots of other habitable planets out there and perhaps many extraterrestrial races, which we will be interacting with sometime soon when we are more technologically advanced. But reality is far different. Our planet Earth is isolated in space, and there's no evidence of other intelligent life. So back in 1990, NASA's Voyager 1 spacecraft, as it was speeding away at 3.7 billion light years away, it took a photo of our planet Earth, which appeared from a vast distance as a pale blue dot. And that's where I got the title for the talk. And that photo and the moving speech by Carl Sagan about it have become iconic. So I'm going to ask Chris to play the video for you. It's just 3.5 minutes. Can you cue it up, Chris?
That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image. To me, It underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
So that speech and that perspective always gives me goosebumps. As he says in that wonderful voiceover, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. So there is no planet B. There's no other current option for a place to live. There are no other places, even in our own solar system, where humans could live easily. There are only a few moons or other planet surfaces where it would even be feasible to establish a human base protected underground or shielded in pressurized buildings. And even that is years in the future and difficult and expensive. Um, the nearest other star systems where there might be habitable planets would take decades of travel aboard an interstellar spacecraft traveling at the highest speeds that we can achieve. And we're currently not even capable of reaching the nearest ones. Um, so, if humans are to survive and thrive as a species, we will need to have long term plans for dealing with predictable events here on Earth, which would threaten our survival. And currently, we do not. We can't even seem to cooperate and discipline ourselves to slow down the climate change, which we ourselves are causing and which will be harmful to us. Okay, so there are some major tasks which we must do to survive the threats of today and thrive in the infinite future. The first major task is we must manage our planet and our population so that we can live on Earth for a very long time. Currently, we aren't doing this. We are rapidly using up resources, polluting the air and the water, increasing greenhouse gases, causing global warming, increasing our population, and we're accelerating the rate at which we do all of those things. Some steps that we can take to accomplish that first major task of living on Earth for a long time. Number one, we must cooperate with all the other industrialized nations on the planet because the effects of events in one nation don't stay confined to that country, but they spread around the globe. Examples include the radiation from the Chernobyl disaster in Russia and the Fukushima disaster in Japan. Um, Here in Shreveport, we saw hazy skies, which aggravated asthma and allergies just in the past year caused by dust blown all the way from Africa. The wildfires in the western US affect the weather in far flung places, as does the slashing and burning of the rainforests in the Amazon region of South America. And infectious diseases arising in one country don't stay confined in that country, as we all now plainly see. Um, there's a danger from bio warfare, from rogue experimentation with biotechnology or artificial intelligence, or from contaminants of all sorts in our interconnected ecosystem of Earth. Dangerous items launched into space, by one country can threaten the whole planet. A nuclear war anywhere on the globe would affect everyone on the globe. So, communication and cooperation is necessary among all the nations of Earth about what types of things are permissible and what precautions are needed. Good international communication and relationships are vital. We have to learn to see ourselves as one people, humans, one interconnected population on this planet rather than a bunch of rival nations. So that's the first thing. Number two, we must slow down the accumulation of waste globally, reduce, reuse, recycle. Even when it's not financially profitable to do so, we must commit to doing so and fund it. Plastic is especially problematic. Just think, mass manufacturing and use of plastics only started in the 1950s. And prior to that, most items were made of natural materials, which would degrade over time. So in just 70 years, plastic waste has multiplied to be a global problem, and microplastics are now even found in our seafood and in our water supply. Also, none of the commonly used plastics are biodegradable. They're here with us for hundreds of years to come. And counting on individuals at the consumer level to recycle doesn't go very far toward what's needed. We need to put the onus on business and industry, which create and market the plastics, and on local, state, and federal governments to legislate and enforce less plastic packaging to begin with, and to have systems to reuse it and recycle it. Also, we need to find the technology to degrade and destroy the plastics that are already with us. There is at least some promising work being done with this, with plastic eating microbes and chemical enzymes to break down plastics. Number 3, we need to limit deforestation worldwide. We need to replant trees, and we need to change the way that we live with plants. Our standard yards of monoculture grass, on which we use chemicals to fertilize and discourage weeds, and on which we use fossil fuels to run mowers to regularly keep the grass 2 inches tall, that's a shockingly wasteful way to live. And all of this contributes to air and water pollution. Number 4, we need to slow down the consumption of finite natural resources globally. When these things are used up, they're permanently gone. We must begin to conserve fossil fuels and rare minerals. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Number 5, we need to develop plans and technology to realistically deal with threats from asteroids. Many times in our planet's history, Earth has been hit by large asteroids, and it will happen again. It's not a matter of if, but when. Large asteroids fly by near the Earth, and they make headlines fairly often, usually with the assurance that it won't hit us. But astronomers don't always see all the asteroids headed this way. And if one was spotted and predicted to hit the Earth, we do not currently have a plan to deflect an asteroid. So all of the items that I just listed were steps that we need to take to manage our planet and our population so that we can continue to live on Earth for a very long time. But we have a second major task that we have to do to survive and thrive indefinitely, and that is to find planets and locations that we can live on in addition to continuing to live on Earth. And that might seem a little science fiction, but if you really think about the very long-term survival of humankind, right now we have all of our eggs in one basket. We know that this planet that we live on and that we evolved on routinely experiences extinction events in which most of the life on the planet is wiped out. Besides being hit by asteroids, Earth has also had periods of massive volcanic activity, which poisoned the atmosphere and shut out the sunlight, and it's frozen over in ice ages that enveloped most of the planet. By cosmic standards, humans have only existed on the Earth for a very short time, far less than the dinosaurs existed on Earth. And we could go extinct here too. So we should begin to seriously invest in space exploration and colonization. We must commit to long-term developing the tech and actually start spreading humans around to any other places that we can reach, because inevitably the Earth will experience changes, either natural or man-made, which will threaten our existence on it. It won't be easy to find other habitable places to get and to get to them. It's not a science fiction movie. Distances are vast and the difficulties are extreme. And there might not even be habitable planets in the nearest star systems to us. So anyway, those are my thoughts about some of the things that we need to do so that humanity survives the threats of today and thrives in the infinite future. And you can probably think of other points to make. So let's discuss.